Speaker number 2, she is a qualified speaker, a QS, and I'll explain that later for those who are interested. From District 12, our own district, Suzanne Strauss has been a Toastmaster for many years. She is a qualified speaker with the Inland Empire Speakers Bureau. She is a writer and a poet. Her passion is poetry. She is very passionate about that. And something from her other information about her, she is very fluent in German. So if you want to get somebody to get some swear words that you don't know, you can use those with her. I know my father slipped those in once in a while. Suzanne Strauss, District 12, qualified speaker. Her title is, I offer at this very moment of our country's inspiration and hope. And title is Unity Now by Suzanne Strauss. Suzanne?
She walked into the room. Wow, I couldn't believe how great she looked. Actually, she looked a little bit like me, actually a lot about me. Well, I guess 30 years ago. And as she spoke, she was so dynamic and so passionate, just like me. Oh my gosh, I found somebody who speaks like me. And lo and behold, she ended her session with a poem. Oh, that really did cement it for me. I love poetry, and I use poetry often in my own speeches. So I was so excited to go talk to her afterwards, and I went up there and I told her how great she was and how I love what she had to say and how much I related to her. And as it turns out, I ended up walking with her to her car. And as we were chatting endlessly, suddenly I noticed that she had a bit change of stance. And she looked a little uneasy. And I guess at some point when I was chatting with her, I mentioned my political view about something. And it seemed to be on the other side of what she believed. And so she literally took 2 steps back and looked at me and said, I can't believe it. We have so much in common. But I mistook you for someone who shared my own political view. That took me aback. I was shocked. I wrote down that quote myself and intended to use it for a speech, and here I am. But that got me to thinking, why do we identify ourselves by politics? Why not look for our commonalities? So if you're my age, or anywhere between a baby boomer and a millennium, and despite your ethnic or religious background, in essence, we are in so many ways the same. I am sure you would agree that unifying our country now is of utmost importance, now more than ever. So I'd like to share with you 3 things that I'd like you to understand. And one of them is why we need to stand up now. The second one is the natural state of human nature. And lastly, what we all share in common. Why do we need to stand up now? Martin Luther King Jr. said, quote, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter, unquote. And that's why I am speaking out today. We must, in this United States, live up to our name, the United States. Shift me to we. Why now? Because indoctrination is annihilation. Because objective truth has become subjective. Because the silent majority needs to be heard. What is the natural state of human nature? Secondly, the natural state of human nature is not to hate, but to love, not to harm, but to help, not to condemn, but to uplift. We must agree to disagree with mutual respect for each other. We must look towards the right things, doing the right things, which we see being done every day. Examples of this you'll find on the TV news or in the newspaper, where a flaming crash takes place on the freeway and people get out of their cars and run towards the danger to pull that person out of that crash, that fire. We've seen people who physically have picked up an entire car to rescue the person underneath it. It's amazing what we're able to do, and we see Americans do all the time. In addition, the military are always there, ready to fight and die for us each and every day. And then there's natural disasters and tragic events. We had something happen on the East Coast recently. What happens then? The people gather together. It isn't even just our friends and neighbors. It's a neighborhood. It's the entire state and beyond our United States. People come together and they help each other. That's just who we are as Americans. Frankly, do you ask your neighbors what political party they belong to? If you're willing to lend a hand? No, of course not. And that is totally ridiculous to even think that. You just lend a hand because it's the right thing to do. Now I would like to go into my third point. What do we share in common? Maya Angelou is one of my favorite poets, and she said from the poem Human Family, quote, "I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike," unquote. Let me give you some examples of how we are very common in our beliefs. We all love our families and want to protect them. We all feel the helplessness when we have a baby who's sick. We all feel the pain of losing our dying parents. We all feel the joy of our children's successes. We feel the exhilaration in a crowd of thousands for the first game of the season. And we feel compassion for others who are suffering. And we very often support GoFundMe efforts. All of these things are based on our shared humanity. In conclusion, I just want to review with you my points, why we need to stand up now. What is the natural state of human nature? And what we have in common in this country. Arthur C. Brooks, the author of Love Your Enemies, had this statement to make. And I want you to listen very carefully to the words because it's so apropos for what's happening in our country today. Quote, "Our disagreement, if we do it right, is what makes our country strong." So let's not let politics destroy what we have that makes us a united country. We need to resist those who are negative, including on social media. Let's remember what we have in common and speak out about our common beliefs and interests. This, my friends, is a wake-up call. Let us all be unified now.